there's a lot of talk about what is next, where are we going, what's coming up after this. And without worrying too much about predicting the future, which I don't think is ever a worthwhile endeavor, I think we can say with certainty that these 4 activities that I'm about to share with you are a fantastic investment for your district. And I hope you take them seriously, because we know that these will be very, very helpful to you moving up into the future. Before I talk about the 4 things, I thought a little levity might be in order. Not that I didn't enjoy your financial reports. There was an old matron, a lady one time, a society lady, that she had a very special vase that she wanted to have painted to match the walls of her living room. And this was very important to her, that she have exactly the right shade. So she hired the best artist in town to come in and paint the walls of the idea was to paint the walls of the place to match the vase, the color of the vase. And the painter spent a lot of time getting the color right, testing it. Then he painted all of the walls and called her in to inspect his job. And she says, no, it's not even close. It's not even close to the shade of the vase. I'm going to have to get somebody else. So she auditioned another painter, brought a second painter in. Same routine. He works really hard to get the exact shade correct. And he calls her in to have a look, and she says, no, not even close. She does this with 3 painters. The third painter finally comes in, does the same basic process, apparently, calls her in to have a look, and she says, that's remarkable. I had 2 painters that with worldwide reputations come in. They couldn't do it. You did. Congratulations. So she paid the third painter. Well, all the painters get together for drinks on Monday night, and they all were aware of how difficult this lady was to work with. And they all wanted to know how the third painter was able to match the paint on the walls to the exact shade of this treasured vase that the old matron owned. And the third artist raised his drink, and he said, it's simple. He said, I repainted the vase. And that's an interesting way to solve a problem, is to solve it with a different kind of perspective, to think about it differently. I think we're going to have to do that in a major way with Rotary moving forward. We have too much competition, ladies and gentlemen. I had the great pleasure of speaking to my governor class at the International Assembly in 2016. And one of the things I shared with them was that there's an organization started out in your area of the world called TED. Thumbs up if you know the group TED. You know TED Talks? They're on the internet. Yeah, you should check them out. TED Talk, just on YouTube. TED Talks are 18-minute talks given by experts in their field. And they're very well done. The talks are very well rehearsed. Almost all of the talks are recorded and put online. And in the last 10 years, TED has eaten Rotary's lunch. Because for a long time, we were supposed to be the master of the 18-minute talk. Almost every Rotary club back in the day, anyway, had speakers come in. And we were supposed to be the ones who had this down to, to a T. But it turns out that TED reinvented the 18-minute talk. And thank you, Barry. Yeah, Barry's actually seen the talks, so he knows. Thank you very much. So what's happened is that with these TED Talks is that all of them are recorded. They're all online. They have an amazing internet footprint. Almost none of Rotary's 18-minute talks are ever recorded. And thank God they're not online, because most of them are average. And what I'm trying to tell you is that here we are in the Zoom platform, and there are still clubs complaining that they can't get good speakers for their club meetings. And yet they could get any speaker they wanted, because they don't have to pay travel expenses. They don't have to fool with the logistics, right? They could just get a really good speaker every week, draw a crowd that would be much bigger than the typical local club roster, and yet clubs are failing at this. I call it, I say that the Zoom honeymoon is over. We used to be so pleased with ourselves that we could all just get online and see each other's faces, and now that's not nearly enough to sustain interest. And we're seeing attendance drop now that the Zoom honeymoon is over. So we have to figure out ways, as we used to say in university, to move from the 101 level course to the 102 and then the 201 course. I don't know if you do that way in the United Kingdom, but we have to get even better at Zoom, especially in the short run, especially knowing that the pandemic isn't leaving us anytime soon. Let me share with you these 4 strategies for moving forward in the new world order. And the first one is to shore up communications. It's kind of this idea of doing better with Zoom meetings. In the military, they call it shoring up comms. Comms is short for communications. What am I talking about here? Not just Zoom meetings. I'm talking about email, bulk email in particular, and improving the open rate and what's called the CTR, or the click-through rate of bulk emails, right? So what percentage of your list is opening the district newsletter? Or what percentage of your club membership is opening the club newsletter? And then what percentage are actually clicking on the link inside that you need them to click on? It's a registration link or a Give Now link or a vote of some kind. I like how you've been doing polling during this call just to keep people engaged and keep them interested. This is how we measure communication success. And yet many Rotary clubs either don't have the patience or the bandwidth to monitor this type of thing. By the way, I'm open to questions. If you just want to type them into chat, I'd be happy to answer the questions in real time or in a cluster at the end. I'm also sharing a link with you right now. I guess it's gonna, yeah, there it is. So this is a Facebook group that I've started. It's called Get the Word Out Now. And you should only join it if you want to grow your club, raise more money, and get attention for Rotary. These are the 3 things that we do in this group, and they are marketing strategies. This is not a bulletin board group where we just post things and go away. It is not a seagull group. You know what a seagull does? The seagull flies over, drops some stuff, and then flies on. We don't do that in this group. We have conversations, and we discuss the strategy, and we ask people, why is it working? We don't just do stuff because everybody's doing it. We ask questions. And I think this is the way forward. This is another way of shoring up communications. I'm also talking about things like texting, Facebook Messenger, Instagram. I can't tell you how many times as a public image chair for Zone 28 East here in my part of the world, which contains, by the way, Alaska, all of Canada, part of New England, and all of Michigan. That's my Zone 28. I can't tell you how many times we're on a leadership call and somebody on the call starts talking about somebody important who's not on the call. And you know, this group of people only gets together once a month, and they keep asking questions about this person that's not on the call until somebody says, well, I'll email him or her and I'll have an answer for you next month. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me. We need to work faster than getting back to each other every month. What I'll often do is grab my phone, I'll text that person in question in real time, and I'll have an answer for the person asking those questions during the meeting. And you can do the very same thing, but you have to think that way. You have to think about, I think, getting the flywheel to spin. Thank you, Jake. Did I put in the wrong link apparently? Thank you for catching that, sir. So we're talking about Instagram, we're talking about Facebook Messenger. Instagram, by the way, a lot of older Rotarians say, I can't handle it anymore. I don't want to be on Instagram. It's not important. And yet, if you want young blood in your organization, you have to appeal to the young people. If you want to fish, if you want to catch fish, you have to fish where the fish are. And the fish, the young fish, are on Instagram, everybody. So this is the idea that we would make ourselves available to young people all over the place. I see that Rodney Spokes has posted that there are 40 talks available from 1070. Well done. Are you, Rodney, unmute if you can. Let's have some conversation. are you posting the entire Rotary meeting, or are you just posting the video of the guest speaker? Can you speak to that?
No, these are speakers offered to clubs on various subjects, some charities, but a lot about Rotary. We have speakers from other countries who will come and join Rotary meetings here, and this is available to all clubs within 1070.
Okay, great. I love it. Yeah. That's okay. And you know, if we get these speakers bureaus going, we've got to treat the speakers well. I can tell you as a professional speaker that the Zoom invitations are endless right now. They are relentless. I did one for California the other day. I'm in Michigan, so their 7:30 meeting had me on at 10:30 at night, and I could do this 12 hours a day, 5 days a week, and never end up without any invitations. So my point is that if we're going to establish a speakers bureau, we've got to give the speakers a good experience when they visit. And oftentimes that just means reordering the Rotary Club meeting. Instead of doing all the Rotary bling at the top of the meeting, right, and then eventually working to the speaker, it's kind of like the format that you did for the district meeting today. And by the way, I wouldn't ask you to reorder your district event just for me. But if you're doing club meetings, you might want to greet everybody, maybe do a quick little formality for the club's sake, just to establish order, then get your speaker on, and then do your Rotary bling, and then do your breakout rooms at the end. That seems to me to make a much nicer flow for everybody concerned. There's one of the longest running television shows here in many parts of the world is called Saturday Night Live. It's been on for over 40 years now. And the way they program is called a power structure. So the strongest skit that they have is on at 11:30 in the evening, and the weakest skit that they have is on at 10 minutes to 1 in the morning, because fewer people are going to be watching then. And that seems to make sense to me. So in a COVID world where all of our meetings are on Zoom and people are going to be peeling off to go do their thing, get back to work, different tasks that they have to do, make sure that all the nutritious content is at the top of the meeting. Don't play games with people. Value their time. And the more interesting you can keep that content, the longer that you'll keep them on the call. I've been watching that number at the bottom of the Zoom interface. It's at 150 right now. Some of you don't pay any attention to that number, but I do. That's how many people are logged into the call right now. I don't know that they're actually listening to me, but I'm kind of hoping that they are. And on occasion, what I do is I say hi to people like Linda May. Hi, Linda, wave to us. And I say hi to Graham. Wave to us, Graham. And I see Simon and Jackie are on today, and Irvin's on, and Maureen's on. Hi, Maureen. And I do this during live presentations just to make sure you don't fall asleep. So I think it's a good idea if you're ever speaking to an audience, you want to acknowledge them. Right, Deborah? Right, Jeff? Thumbs up, everybody. Down below, there's a chance for you to click reactions and click that thumbs up. If I should say something that resonates with you, let me know. Thank you very much, Chris. And that way you can also get a feel for the group. Is the group engaged? And you can actually condition an audience to start to do this for you. You know, I teach presentation skills. I have an online course where I teach presentations. And one of the things I teach students really early in the curriculum is that you want to get your audience to do something physical in the first 15 or 20 seconds of your presentation. So I'll get people to nod their heads or wave at me or give me a thumbs up if they can hear okay. And these are fantastic ways that you can keep Rotarians engaged. It's a very serious issue in the time of COVID. I also think that we should shore up communication on the LinkedIn platform. Now, I think it's maybe more popular here in North America than it is in Great Britain, but I know a lot of Brits are on LinkedIn. This is where you reach your professional community. And by the way, if you want to appeal to the media, Twitter is the place to be, all over the world. And a lot of Rotarians cross their arms like I am right now. They cross their arms and say, I'm not interested in Twitter. And that's fine, but the media is intensely interested in Twitter. And if you're doing something important, you want to reach out to them on Twitter. Just saying. Let's talk about the second modality of what we can do to get things going, and that is to get clear on our goals. I know Peter's working big time on this right now and following through on goals. Well, to me, goals include a number. We often hear when Rotarians are reciting the four-way test, somebody always pipes up and says, and don't forget goal number 5, is it fun? And I love that. Everybody loves it when people say Rotary should be fun. But how do you measure fun? And is fun the same for a 70-year-old as it is for a 27-year-old? That's an interesting question to me. Because if it's you're not having fun for everybody, then it's really not working out in the way that we thought it might be. So we've got to make sure that it's fun for the 27-year-olds, if you want 27-year-olds in your organization, and 70-year-olds. Or maybe we have different kinds of fun for those different age groups. In any case, fun, just like everything else, every other worthy endeavor, is measurable. And I think that's a conversation waiting to happen. Barry Woods has invited me to speak at his E-Club. I told you the Zoom call invitations were relentless. Thank you, Barry. I'll follow up with you after the program. So, yeah, look at, Peter says Grantham has a speaker coming in from New Zealand, and they've moved the meeting 3 hours to accommodate the speaker. Now, this works out great if that speaker has a value proposition that has the club being okay with moving that time frame, and attendance goes up. Fabulous. And that's a win-win for everybody, right? Excellent. John Waller says that speaker.net.co.uk has some great talks that you've used in the Rotary section. Yeah, and you can also get these speakers to come speak for you. By the way, if you want good speakers, don't just call them and say, hey, can you come speak to our Rotary Club? Offer them something specific that the speaker really wants. What do speakers want? They want connectivity to your organization moving forward. So why don't you offer them a display ad in your newsletter? Speaker, never show up like that in a newsletter, and it's free for you to do this. You see, you might only have 25 or 30 or 50 people on the call, but there are, 16, 17, 1,900 people in the district. Tell them you're going to expose their website to everyone in the district, and it becomes a more attractive offer for them. Tell them that you're going to record the call. Tell them that you're going to get them 50,000 internet impressions. 50,000. 50,000. It's not hard to do. The key, of course, is getting every Rotarian to share to their personal Facebook page, and then the numbers add up pretty quickly. Most of you have at least 1,000 friends on Facebook. So 50 Rotarians share, that's 50,000 internet impressions. Pretty cool. So when we're clear on goals and we're measuring the numbers, then we're not fuzzy about it in our reports. Membership is up or membership is down. Even membership reports are fuzzy. Why? Because of the timing. Rotary International numbers almost never jibe with club numbers because of the timing differential. And so you want to make sure you're comparing apples to apples. And I'm working with people here in this part of the world who are measuring Facebook engagement, which you can measure in the analytics section of the Facebook page. You can actually figure out not only how many followers your club has, but how many people are engaged. And this gentleman has created a table comparing all of the clubs. He's identified which club in the district is leading in Facebook engagement. Why is that important? Because now we can hold that club up to the rest of the clubs in the district as a role model club. And we can now interview people from that club. How are you doing it? What are your best practices? And we can teach other clubs how to be better at it. So this is the idea. I'm trying to keep up with the comments here. Thank you very much for all your participation. Carl Flower says, proof in concept, recent Facebook links or food bank links were picked up by the Facebook and Twitter, and you were approached by newspaper and BBC in Northampton from social media links. Bravo, that's how it's supposed to work. Absolutely. In the old days, if you could get 100 people to come to an event, the local newspaper took interest. but we don't have physical events anymore, so we've got to get more clever. Richard Wells says the assumption that event, evert Rotarian can access Zoom is dangerous. Every Rotarian can access Zoom is dangerous. Richard, what do you mean by that? You want to take yourself off mute? Clive says, why is it not available on the district website? Not sure what you mean, Clive. Take yourself off mute. We can talk about it.
Not every Rotarian has the wherewithal, the hardware and so on to access Zoom, and therefore we are in danger of putting some Rotarians in a different, lower category in terms of communication.
Yeah, I think there's something to that theory. I might rephrase it that's a personal choice of that Rotarian. For some reason, they don't choose to take part in Zoom. That's their decision.
Not necessarily.
Okay.
If they don't have the kit, they can't.
Yeah, well, we can agree to disagree. I remember, you remember the rotary phones that we used to have, Richard, where you'd have to dial and then wait for the dial to come back around? Remember that? Does anybody have one of those? Give me a thumbs up if you still have a rotary phone. Okay, good for you. A couple of you still do. You know, back in the day, there was starting to be this automated voicemail where you could call and get voicemail answers in the new voicemail system. And a lot of people worried about the rotary phones. And the problem kind of solved itself because people started to understand that we were moving on to a new type of technology. I do agree with you, Richard, that some people will be slower to do this, and some may never make the change, and we should always have an alternative for them. I absolutely agree with that.
Thank you.
You're welcome, sir. Clive says, why is it not available on the district website? What are you referring to, Clive?
I'm referring to the list of speakers. I understand that, from John, that it's down to a privacy list. But I'm thinking if we want to get a list of speakers for our club, just that more better access to the list would be really helpful on the district webpage, rather than having to email and get the list, etc. But maybe it could be put in a less exposed form, so private information isn't available. But I would have thought if a charity or somebody else wants to share at a club, they're quite happy for their email to be available.
Yeah, and in privacy, we should honor privacy as well. Privacy is a funny thing. People are always asking me as a professional speaker if it's okay if they can share my email. I'm like, yeah, that's the only way I can stay in business. Please share my email. Please share my phone number. So everybody looks at this kind of stuff differently. By the way, one thing that we do need to worry about is so many speakers are on Rotary speaker bureaus and they're asking to be removed. For the reason I mentioned earlier, that they're getting treated shabbily by some clubs. They block out time, they get on the call's not well organized, there are only 5 people on the call. You can understand why they would be disappointed.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so we need to up our game so that we can stay competitive with these other organizations like TED, like some of these other groups that are competing for members and so on. Okay, great. Thanks everybody for all the questions. Let's do some more here. How many friends on Facebook? So yeah, type in how many friends, personal friends you have on Facebook. And Judy mentioned she has 143. Good for you, Judy. That's an interesting question. I think a lot of people over time stop growing their Facebook friend list. Facebook taught us a while back not to accept the friendship of anybody we don't already know. That seemed to me to be silly. That's kind of like going to an event and not talking to anybody new because you haven't met them yet. I think it's a networking device, so I look at it maybe a little bit differently than some people do. Steve Howe has 1,181 friends. Good for you, Steve. Again, this is adjusted to everyone's personal thermostat on the issue. Someone mentioned that some folks' internet connection isn't good enough for video. I understand. So Judy, and you can take yourself off mute if you'd like, are you saying that Rotary should shy away from using video because some people's video connections are poor?
It's just that the fact is that internet connections are poor, so they can't use Zoom. and they choose not to join by telephone because it's difficult. They don't really feel like they belong to the meeting.
Yeah. I mean, it's a difficult thing, isn't it? And then Rotary, and we're all pleasers. We want to make everybody happy. So then, if we're really sensitive to that issue, we stop doing video because a couple people can't do it, or because 5% of the people can't do it. I don't know what the percentage is, Alfred, but it's worth conversation, I think. Okay.
Well, we're carrying on. We're not letting that stop us, but I am conscious that 2, 3, 4 of my members are never going to join us. Some because they cannot, and others, as one of Mike Truthwell has said, there's a couple of our people who will not have Zoom. They do not believe it's safe.
Yeah, I know there are people like that, and not for nothing, Alfred. We have people in my club here in the Troy Rotary of Michigan that cannot attend physical meetings because they're not well enough. They can't move around well enough, or they're ill, and no one has ever suggested that we stop meeting because those people can't attend. So we have to find that sweet spot, sir. Everybody, I'm talking to everybody. We have to find that sweet spot where we can make the maximum number of people happy and give them a good experience. I think this is important. Our major problems right now, and I see a lot of these comments are technical, our major problems right now, our major challenges in Rotary are not technical. We have people issues, ladies and gentlemen. We have communication issues, and they're not technical issues. I'm moving through the comments, trying to move through some of there's been a little bit of repetition here about phone and Zoom and video and that sort of thing, software. I see 27 messages I haven't seen yet. Maybe somebody can get these together for me and we can tee them up at the end. Let's move on. We've talked about shoring up communications, everybody, and we've talked about getting clear on goals. That's the second thing that we can do, and goals include numbers, right? And the third thing that we can do is improve what's called outward-facing programming. Now, this is a really interesting question. When we have a speaker come speak to our club, and we know our club consists of a certain type of demographic, maybe a certain age group, a certain gender, a certain, I don't know, maybe everybody in the group is a Scorpio. And we program to that club demographic. Does that mean that we're not attracting other types of people from the community that might want to join our club? So it raises an interesting question. Who is our ideal customer? Are they just the club members, or is it people that we want to be in the club? And that's called outward-facing programming, where we would actually have speakers who are desirable and have desirable messaging for people that might not even be in our club. How does the club feel about that? Will they be, we don't even want this speaker. Why would we have them? It's an interesting thing. Like the last thing a club wants to do, a Rotary club in any part of the world, typically, like a group of 70-year-old, and by the way, I'm older than you think. Lest you think that I'm a young person talking smack about older people, I'm older than you think. That our Rotary Club speaker list is not loaded with 35-year-olds. Thumbs up if you don't understand what I'm saying. We don't have a lot of 35-year-old speakers speaking to Troy Rotary. But what if we did have some? What if we had more than we have right now? Who would we attract to the club if we got the word out about 35-year-old speakers? We would attract 35-year-old people. So it's an interesting thing. And the same is true for attracting females or any demographic that you'd like to grow. So outward-facing program is our way to connect those YO-pros, they're called young professionals, Rotaractors, now an official part of Rotary for, I think since January, right? Is that when they announced it? Or maybe a year ago, January? Does anybody remember? So thumbs up if you've had a Rotaractor speak at your club in the last 6 months. Thumbs up if you've had a Rotaractor speak at your club. And yet they're part of us now. Yeah, good. Excellent. So this is the kind of thing that we're thinking about moving forward. By the way, the number at the bottom of the screen now, I think I said it was 145. It is now at 146. So we're holding the crowd pretty good. And the fourth of the four things I'd like to ask you to consider improving, and then we'll do some Q&A. So the first one is show up communications. The second one is get clear on goals. Goals include numbers. The third one is outward-facing programming at our club meetings, conferences, events. And the fourth is the improved club experience. So that when people make time to come to your Zoom meeting, that it is not amateur hour. It is not a clown show. It does not have a lot of dead air and fumbling about. I was a guest on a club meeting a while back, and apparently they have a video of someone ringing the bell. You know, have you seen that video? Thumbs up if you've seen it. It's pretty cool when it works. And someone actually rings a bell, the bell goes bing, and they start the virtual meeting. But this club cannot get the video to work. Apparently week after week after week, and it's like a skit now. They have a pool of money. They're betting on whether or not the bell will work. And maybe it's entertaining for the club, but as a visitor, I was kind of embarrassed for them. I didn't understand that this is now an ongoing skit. And so I think it's important that we put on our best face. If you look up Rotary in Wikipedia, it says that we're a professional service organization. Professional. And so I think it's important that we have a good face on, especially when we're drawing visitors and guest speakers and these types of people to the organization. So I'm happy to do questions, Q&A. I'll stay on as long as you want. Somebody's watching the time for me, I'm sure. Have you had a chance to get the questions together? Judy's right. You used to have 164 people, but a lot of those signed up before I started talking, Judy. You can take yourself off mute and ask if you'd like. Doesn't have to be a question, can be a comment.
I think what you've spoken to us about, Michael, has been very, very informative. It's given us a lot to think about.
Thank you.
Perhaps what we can do is highlight all of the questions that's come up, and I can send them to you, and then perhaps in time to come we can have another meeting and do it again and bring in the people who want to listen about the things that we've talked about.
Well, Peter, you and I have a really good relationship. I know that we had planned to do a lot of things together, and I wouldn't be surprised to spend more, and I would be pleased to spend more time with the group, and maybe even a different format, whatever. I'll make this deal with everybody on the call. If you join that Get the Word Out Now group on Facebook, and you don't need the link, just go to Facebook and search the search bar at the top, Get the Word Out Now, and ask your question there. Let's ask it in front of everybody, because there's a good chance that other people have the question as well. And if you're questioning me, that's fine, I don't mind. Tell everybody in the group, you heard me speak, you disagree with something I said, let's get it on the table. And I think it would be a good forum for us to figure it out. We're all in this together, everybody, and we need to row at the same time if we're going to get anywhere. I think you'd all agree with that. I want to remind everybody before we say goodbye, Peter, I have two other Facebook groups that can be useful to you. One is called Present Like a Pro. If you are speaking on behalf of Rotary, or in any capacity, maybe you're speaking for work, you should join this free Facebook group and get ongoing speaking tips and tricks so that you can be at the top of your game. And right now I'm spending a lot of time on how to be effective at selling and persuading and speaking on Zoom. So it's called Present Like a Pro, and it's on Facebook. And I guess the other thing I wanted to tell you is I have a newsletter with these types of communication tips. If you're interested in receiving it, you can just subscribe at michaelangelocaruso.com. That's just my full name, everybody. michaelangelocaruso.com/Friday, lowercase, Friday, hyphen, the number 5. michaelangelocaruso.com/Friday, hyphen, 5.
I think what I'll do, Michael, is get John to put those links out to everybody so that they've all got them in writing. Thank you very, very much for what you've done this evening and for joining us.
My pleasure.
And thinking about Zoom and what you were talking about, that there was a gentleman that needed to take his daughter to work because nobody was there to mind her. And when they got to work, she walked in through the door and immediately burst into tears. And he said, "What's the matter?" She said, "Where's all the clowns you told me you worked with?" But thank you very much, Michael. If you want to stay on the meeting for the rest of the meeting, you're very welcome, or if you need to go, that's fine too.
Peter, I will stay in chat and answer any questions that I can. And congratulations, everybody, on sallying forth. This is a very difficult time and challenging time to be in Rotary, but when we get through it, we are going to have some stories to tell, aren't we? Keep on, everybody.
Thanks very much, Michael.
Bye-bye.
So on the back of that, we'll now move on to Hugh Holden and the Foundation report.
Good evening, Rotarians. I'm following Michael, and I am not a professional presenter. I'll do my best. You've seen our Rotary Foundation team report on the website for the last 4 weeks, and it was updated on Monday this week to take account of the very latest information that has come through from Rotary Foundation. And the thing I want to talk to you about tonight is the new rules for funding global grants, which are fairly far-reaching for those clubs dealing with global grants. At the end of May, Foundation, or to be exact, yes, Foundation, announced that the World Fund would no longer